going on, everybody? So this video is about COVID-19. Try to keep it short and sweet. First and foremost, I am a registered respiratory therapist with almost 15 years of medical experience. I'm what they would categorize as a frontline responder. And yes, I have taken care of several COVID-19 positive patients. So with that said, let me give you my perspective. This is my perspective, what I've seen with my own two eyes, my anecdotal evidence. This video is not trying to change anybody's perspective, because at this point, this far into it, I know that people's perspective is just their perspective. They're not going to change their minds at all. I get it. But I make this video anyways, in the thoughts that maybe somebody might watch it and might consider what I'm saying, or maybe even reconsider some of the stuff that they may be thinking. I always have a questioning attitude. Now, COVID-19 didn't have an official name when I heard about it at the end of 2019. So just to keep it very summarized, I knew about it, didn't think much of it. Fast forward into 2020, it comes onto the scene. Both sides are playing it down, okay? Let that be clear. Nobody was making a big deal about COVID-19 when we first found out about it. It was suspected by early doctors who caught on to it that it presented itself as a bad cold / flu-like symptoms. And then there is this request or suggestion that we should have a nationwide shutdown because we have been declared in a pandemic status. Now, as ridiculous as I thought that was, I said, okay, let's do it. It's a new virus. We don't know exactly how it's going to affect people yet, so let's go ahead and err on the side of caution. It shouldn't be that long. Maybe a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, month tops. You know, I get it. Let's just kind of see what happens and roll with it, okay? Of course, there's the mass hysteria with the toilet paper and all that other madness, right? So, mind you, at the time I'm thinking, I said, okay, I hope they really know what they're doing here, because I understand I guess they don't want to overwhelm hospitals, right? And I guess that's a legitimate concern at the very beginning. I was like, I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. Because at the same time, I'm keeping in mind that staying locked down indoors is not good for you. You need sunlight. You need to keep your adaptive immunity engaged. Means that you interact with your environment because it keeps your immune system up. And I know that the longer you stay hunkered down inside your home, the more likely you are to really get sick. So I was like, okay, whatever. And then we start seeing all these things come out where during the lockdowns, the people that are putting these policies in place are not adhering to their own rules and guidelines. We got mayors going out and getting haircuts when all barbershops were mandated to shut down. We got people getting citations by walking alone on the beach. People getting citations by going out and going for a run on their own. People are not allowed to go to churches. And even when business owners were trying to find creative ways to keep people safe, to no avail. And then I was like, okay, well, marijuana dispensaries are still open. Oh, well, that's for medical needs. I'm like, okay, so how about just the people that have a medical license can go get their marijuana? Recreational marijuana is still going on. That hasn't been shut down. Liquor stores are still open. You can still get your cigarettes. Is it not because that these three items generate a high percentage of tax revenue, so they're considered essential? I was like, okay, whatever. I started seeing shady things developing very quickly. So, but what really got me spun up was when a group of doctors felt like they had a very promising treatment protocol for people who were in the early stages of having COVID-19, and it was being crucified. And was it because the president endorsed it? Possibly. That seems like a good likelihood. But it was blowing my mind because it's called practicing medicine for a reason, especially if you got something new. I know that hydrochloroquine has been around forever. I know that Z-Pak, anybody who knows about azithromycin, it's almost like a catch-all antibiotic. It destroys just about everything. And zinc is good for the immune system. And I'm not sure if those three things are specifically why they wanted to use it for COVID-19, but I know as from an individual compound standpoint, that's my knowledge of it. So it makes sense. I was like, why is this being shunned? Why are they making such a big deal about this? Like, Facebook banning it. Fake news, fake news. It's dangerous. Reckless. I'm like, okay, so something else is going on here, because I haven't seen such a huge pushback on a medication protocol or a treatment protocol ever. Not in my life, not in my career. I've never seen this before. So when there's this type of pushback on something, that intrigues me, that there might be some validity to it based on other things that I've seen in the past on other topics. So I'm like, okay, it makes sense. This treatment protocol is cheap as dirt. Nobody makes money off of this. So nobody who's trying to make a vaccine, nobody who's trying to make a new medication has any vested interest in this being a valid treatment protocol. The only people who care about this being a successful treatment protocol are good doctors who really want to see their patients get better, and money has nothing to do with it. They're just good, ethical doctors, and they want to see their patients improve. Those are the only people who care. And the patients themselves, of course. Anybody else who has a vested interest in some kind of monetary benefit of the creation and deployment of a vaccine or a new medication, they don't want to see that roster of service. They don't want to see that take traction. So I was like, okay, you should be concerned about that. That's something that we might have that could be, generally speaking, a no harm, no foul for most people, an attempt that if it works, good. If it doesn't, at least you tried, right? I was like, okay, so there's that. And then we got Medicare paying hospitals a sum of money for a positive case, and then another sum of money for those who go on ventilators. What's up with that? Now we're paying private institutions for every positive case that they have and every person that they have go on a ventilator. And now we're calculating the deaths recklessly. You can pull it up. Mayor Lightfoot said herself, she outlined how those calculations were done. That's the guidance that they were received. If I got into a car accident, a very bad car accident, and I was rushed to the hospital, and I died in the emergency room from my injuries, and I tested positive from COVID-19. I didn't die from that car accident. I died from COVID-19. That's how these early deaths were being calculated. And now we know that if you're above the age, if you're below the age of 70, you don't have a whole lot to worry about. Most of the deaths from COVID-19 are people who are ages 70 and above, 74 and above. That is not most of this population. So all this shutdown, all the collateral damage that was being caused was not for a good reason. Spikes in heart disease, heart disease related deaths, spikes in cancer related deaths, spousal abuse, child abuse, malnourishment. Not to mention our children, their education is declining as the weeks go by. Let's be honest here. Most of the people know that when their kids are sitting around in the house all day, they're not learning anything. They're playing video games and watching TV and playing on their phones. The kids need to go back to school. So I was like, okay, there's something else going on here. This turned into something where they took a new virus and not even gradually, it very quickly turned into a political weapon. And I find that concerning. The death toll, completely inaccurate. The positive cases, completely inaccurate. Faulty testing kits, first and foremost. And then when we get the curve under control and it looks like everything's on a decline and everybody's in the stages of reopening, we get a spike, right? An increase in COVID-19 cases. They go, oh, here we go. Wave 2 coming along, just like they predicted. And me, having to go through statistics, get my MBA, I said, no, I'm not buying it. Because I know a lot about statistics, and I know enough about statistics to know that all I have to do is change one data point to get the result I'm looking for. Something changed in the data points. They changed something. And then, lo and behold, people are getting notifications that they are COVID-19 positive, and they're like, I never even took a test. How am I COVID-19 positive? They changed the game. So now, if somebody goes to the hospital and they get a positive test, the hospitals, it was being calculated that that person and everybody in that person was in vicinity of were speculated to have been positive cases for COVID-19. So they just started assuming people had COVID-19. That's how they got their spike in their numbers. What do you want me to do with this information? You want me to legitimately be scared because they're falsely inflating the death count and falsely inflating the amount of positive cases? When I see with my own two eyes, anybody that I've seen that was a positive case seemed mainly asymptomatic, a handful, stomach cramps, headache, slight fever. Nobody needed hospital care. Granted, my demographic was different. But knowing what we know now, shutting down the entire country was never the answer. And I think most people can understand that. And I don't even think most people take this whole mask thing seriously anymore. I think there's a general consensus. If you can go out there and riot, and you can go out there and protest, and you can go out there in mass groups of people and have a dance off in the middle of the street, most people are not concerned. It's like, oh, well, most people are just reckless like that until the life is flashing before their eyes. Possibly. But everybody I come across, they wear the mask as a prop because they're told to do so, which puts another thing in your head, or in my mind. This is to me, this is not about protecting myself from an illness anymore. It's not about protecting others from an illness anymore. It's about obedience. Anybody who knows how the body works knows that if you are a healthy individual, you have nothing to worry about. But they want you to be convinced that you need to wait for a vaccine before things can possibly go back to normal. A vaccine created, rushed, and based on a completely new technology, which they have gone on record to say that if you are adversely affected by this vaccine, they take no accountability. You're just screwed. And then there are moves to try to mandate people to take this vaccine, and if you try to opt out of it, they're going to put certain things in place to make your life very difficult to try to live life normally. If you don't have it, they're like, okay, we can't legally make you get it, But if you don't get it, these are the consequences you're going to endure, which is going to make life very difficult for you until you do decide to get it. So, in essence, putting you in a position where you have to get it. So you want to force me to take something that's based on experimental technology, and if something goes wrong, I'm just SOL. I don't understand how anybody could be comfortable with that concept. I find that frightening. I know I'm a healthy individual, and I know that it is important to everybody else should be healthy as well. And if you're healthy, you don't need this vaccine. This is not a vaccine to protect you from the next bubonic plague. If that was the case, maybe if we're dealing with a virus that if I caught it, I have a high likelihood of dying. But that is not our reality. Why are we trying to mass vaccinate a population where a majority of the population has absolutely nothing to worry about? And that's why I think it's so ridiculous about COVID-19. I know I don't have all the answers on how it got here or why powerful people are doing what they're doing. I can speculate. But at least in my deductive reasoning, I can speculate that COVID-19 as a whole is nothing but politically weaponized bullshit. That's all there is to it.